thank you for coming. I'm really glad it's a small group because that means it doesn't have to be so formal. And I appreciate that because I really like to engage the people that come to this. And I hope that some of what I have to say today is going to be incredibly enlightening, and other things is going to be incredibly affirming. And that we'll have a substantial time here together. My name is Angie Buchanan. I am of a background of law enforcement. I come from 3 years with the Federal Correctional Institution and the prison system, and 10 years on the street as a law enforcement officer. During that time, I've been very, very involved with politics, chairing campaigns, and have been very excited to learn that one of the individuals that I worked with during the days that I was stuffing envelopes and helping campaigns was just recently elected as the governor of Kentucky. And so I really appreciate the fact that people who have known me are in positions where they are able to listen. And listening is one of the most important things that we can do in any arena, but specifically and especially in the interfaith arena. So today what I'm going to be talking about, your theme is Pagans in Action. And what I'm going to be talking about is the action that I'm doing out in the world and the people that I'm acting with, and what that statement has to say about paganism in general, and individuals, and the interfaith movement overall on a broad spectrum. So I'd like to open this session by offering you the Universal Prayer for Peace. And this is a piece that's given generally at the beginning of the board meetings for the Council for Parliament of the World's Religions. I sit on the board of directors for the council, and I have since 2002. Last year, I was elected as the secretary for the executive board. I'm the first pagan that's ever served in that capacity for that organization. It's the largest, oldest, and one of the most well-respected interfaith organizations in the world. So I'm honored and privileged to have a seat at that table and a voice. So I begin with this session, this prayer for this session that was offered in Barcelona in 2004 at the event that was given there by the Parliament. Lead me from death to life, from falsehood to truth. Lead me from despair to hope, from fear to strength. Lead me from hate to love, from war to peace. Let peace fill our heart, our world, our universe. Words. Words that spin and weave a web that encompasses everyone. The Interfaith Forum. What is it? I love to use the analogy of a group of islands. And on each island is a religion. We have our island of Catholics, and we have our island of Buddhists, and we have our island of Sikhs and Muslims. We have our island of Jews. And on each of those islands, there's a heart sense that happens. There's a feeling of belonging. There's a sense of weaving tribe. There's a concept of being held. There's a comfort. It's safe on those islands. When we come off of those islands, some of those things go away, and we walk as we feel we are unprotected. What the Interfaith Forum does is it builds bridges between those islands. And it asks us to step out onto those bridges. And when we do, we feel safe because we're not on anyone else's island. And yet we're connected. So what I say to you is that religion is not a competitive sport. And the Interfaith Forum is not about religion. It's about social issues. So we come out from our islands onto those bridges to roll up our sleeves and work together on social issues, on issues that are common to all of us and have nothing to do with who we call God or how we choose to kiss the ground. It has to do with providing clean water for everyone. It has to do with overcoming religiously motivated violence. It has to do with addressing the refugee problem. It has to do with things that concern international debt, and we're going to get into some of the statistics that involve some of those very important things. This year, in 2009, the Parliament will convene again in Australia, Melbourne, Australia, and one of the issues that this event will address are the tragedies and the travesties that have been committed against Indigenous people. I pause when I say that because the magnitude of that statement and how it impacts every one of us in this room is almost too big to articulate. Each of us, the practice that we have as pagans, as people of the earth, draws on the roots of an indigenous tradition, and we are the result of oppression. Therefore, the bridge that we as pagans need to build between ourselves here in a privileged country and the indigenous people, the Aboriginals of Australia, is one of siblinghood. One that connects brother and sister, one that connects roots and makes the aha happen for the world. That here we have populations that are extinct. That means forever gone. Here we have populations whose languages don't exist anymore, whose cultures are dead, never to be revived. Over 300 of them. Never to be revived. Everything is lost. We look at the indigenous populations and we think about when the tsunami hit in 2004, and we have two groups of indigenous tribes, one of 1,600 people and one of 1,800 people. And of those two groups, all of them heard the water speak, and they headed for the hills. And all of those people who were in their spas and their retreats with their laptops and their iPods and their endless supply of money relatively perished. We have forgotten this language. That's terrifying and sad. And we have to do something about that. And because we understand, because our own languages have been compromised, because our own traditions and cultures have been compromised, we need to be the carpenters and the architects that are out there building that bridge. And that's why I'm here today to talk to you about this. So I guess a place to start is I think I've already kind of addressed that, you know, the world is getting smaller, and that we, as the peoples of the world, are getting to know each other better. And in building these bridges, that enhances that process. So where the Parliament comes in is the Parliament is not an activist organization, it's a forum for dialogue. And it was established actually in 1893, but it convened in 1893 and initiated dialogues that nurtured relationships among people of difference. And in doing so, the Council has provided a framework for expressing many visions for a just and a sustainable and a peaceful world. And so the shared commitment of that has opened up a whole new vista for voices to be heard and people to be valued for what it was that they had to offer. When we walk into the Parliament, we have some challenges that are rather unique. When we come to sit at the table of interfaith dialogue, we have some challenges that are incredibly unique. And, you know, we have, I have a rather unflattering comment that I still think sums some things up. When we talk about Christians and Jews and Muslims, I have a friend that refers to them as the squabbling children of the one true God. And we don't have the one true God. So oftentimes in Parliament Forum, when I walk in, people's hearts are open and and they're wanting to share, and they're wanting to find that common ground. And so the dialogue starts to go into this sort of vein of, well, we all know that we've all come from the same creative source, and we all know that God loves us, and we're his children. And and we all have our sacred texts that say this, and that's strike 3. A, we don't believe that we all come from the one true God. Some of us don't believe in a God at all. Some of us honor them in different forms. Some of us honor them as the mystery with no form. Some of us honor gods and goddesses of ancient lore and connect with them by name and know their personalities, but not everyone. Number 2, we don't all believe that we were created by one true God. Some of us believe that a co-creation happened. Some of us believe it's a dimensional thing. Some of us don't have a creation story at all. Some are evolutionists, some are atheists. It's still valid. It still has value out on the bridge. Number 3, we don't have a sacred text. No chapter and book written by a prophet. And that's the other thing that I like to say, is that we're a non-profit. And that's because most of what we believe hinges largely on self-responsibility. Nobody's coming to help you. What will you do for yourself? There isn't somebody out there that's rushing in to solve all of your problems. It's all happening in here. What will you do for yourself? Nobody's coming. And so that's, to me, what makes this religious path or spiritual path one of the most difficult, because you don't get to blame anything on anybody but you. It's all about self-responsibility. It's all about accepting consequences. And to give you a couple of examples of some of the things that we've combated with the Parliament, or the challenges that we've faced. This is, again, like I said, one of the largest, most well-respected interfaith organizations in the world. But, as you saw, it started in 1893, and the second convening of the Parliament wasn't until 1993. There was 100 years in there that went by. And so, relatively, these gatherings are new. So now we're bringing 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 people together. And so it's still kind of a learning curve. Up until 93, we didn't really have a voice at the table. Ed Hubbard and Selena Fox and Deborah Ann Light and some Andres Corbin Arthen and some others were at the 93 Parliament. It was a fight the whole way. The Greek Orthodox walked out and refused to participate because we were there. In 93, similarly, we were really struggling to get our programming accepted. In 2004, that changed quite a bit, and mostly because I know that a lot of folks have thought that my presence on the Parliament was this very sedate sitting at the table and nodding wisely and coming to terms with all of this. No, there was a lot of screaming and yelling that happened. And here's why. First of all, as I was walking down the hallway in Barcelona amongst these 9,000 people, I kind of glanced over and I saw this great big banner in a hallway, and it said, "The Divine Feminine." And I thought, wow, that's really exciting. And we had had panels that, by the way, were put into rooms for like 50 people, and we had people spilling out into the hallway to come and listen to our panels on paganism inside and outside of the circle, on the ecology and conservation ideas of paganism, and I can't remember what the third panel was, but all three panels we had literally standing room only. And so I'm walking by and I'm thinking, oh, this one slipped by me, I didn't see this one. And I walk in and it's in this grand ballroom. with, you know, seating for 1,000 people, and it's pretty full. It's not spilling over, but it's pretty full. And high up above this crowd is this panel of women. And there are 3 different flavors of Christian. There's a Muslim woman, there's a Jewish woman, and that's it. So I really needed to take a seat then, and I did. And I listened to them pat themselves on the back in a congratulatory fashion for bringing the divine feminine back to the world. So naturally my head exploded. And I didn't bother to clean up the bits of brain and matter that were on the walls as I began writing and sent this note up to the podium, because 2 of the people that were sitting on the podium served on the board with me. This isn't a huge board, this is 45 people. And I thought, first of all, my most severe angst was I haven't gotten it across. I haven't gotten the message across. They don't really know what I'm doing there, or who I am, or what I represent. And so basically what the note said was, how dare you? How dare you? For you to have this panel would be akin to me standing up in front of a group of Catholics and speaking with authority on the celibacy of the Catholic priesthood without ever having consulted them. How dare you? Where are the goddess women? Where are the goddess worshipers? Where are the path of duality followers? Where are they? Before you can congratulate yourselves, you must admit the mistake. You must confront the history. You can't just leap over it. You have to be able to say, yeah, we're the ones that did the oppressing. And we're the ones that stuffed her in the closet. And you are the ones who kept her alive through your folklore, through your paintings, through your tarot cards, through your stories, through your kitchen witchery, through your hereditary medicinal people, through your wise women. You kept her alive with your gypsy colonies that traveled and refused to convert and were able to just preserve bits and pieces. You were the hand that staved the sledgehammer from the Venus of Willendorf so that she could be in a museum in Vienna today. You are the ones that preserved her so that we could come full circle to realize how important she is and how hidden she has been in our own traditions. Where were we? Big faux pas. Big faux pas. Still have a lot of work to be done. Because we've seen this before, haven't we? We've seen this coming in and ripping out the rug and changing a birth date of a prophet until December. And how the heck are they still getting away with calling it Easter anyway? We've seen this before. We didn't like it then. Now we have voice. And we cannot like it out loud now. And that's why you need to be a part of this. Because the more voices, the more volume. Each voice a pebble in the pond that has a ripple effect. It has to be heard. And each of us coming from this tradition has a different voice. It's not monotony, it's harmony. There's a difference. And harmony is a sweet song that has to be sold. We have it. And when I say sold, I don't mean financially. I mean as a concept, as an idea, being able to trace the roots back, being able to give these people an aha moment of, in one of the rooms that we were in with the paganism inside and outside of the circle, of course, the question came up, are you Satanists? Where does Satan fit in? I really would prefer to tell people what we are as opposed to what we are not. But the way that I can think of to dispel that is just the way we did there, by saying, you know, he doesn't belong to us. He didn't show up on the scene until Christianity came along. He's yours. We don't know him. Dispelling the myth. Taking away its power. Pagans, who are they? We're your nurses, we're your doctors, we're your cab drivers, we're your lawyers, we're your grocery store clerks, we're your computer people. We're out there just like you, living and breathing and trying to find happiness in our lives and fighting with our children and, you know, shopping at the grocery store and cursing during traffic jams, and, you know, that's us, just like you. And we also have our island where we go to our tribe for comfort and security and to be held and to wail at the death of our loved ones and to honor those ancestral paths and to cross that river of blood. That's who we are. And that's the message that needs to be shared. The more that share it, the wider the circle, the more ripples in the pond. One of the points that I also wanted to make when I said that we've been here before is, you know, when we go through this healing the earth, hearing each other and healing the earth, you know, 5 years ago, people were getting rocks thrown at them for protecting trees being cut down. You know, 10 years ago, the whole concept of global warming was poo-poo. It was just, and now all of a sudden it's vogue. And everybody's on board, and it was all their idea. This is your spirituality. Don't let them take it from you. So I told you some of the challenges that we've had at the Parliament, and now I'd like to share some of the successes. One of them being that after I sent that very heated note to the front of that ring of congratulatory goddess birthers, I was approached by one of the members of the board, who is a female Episcopal priest. And she came up to me the next morning and, with tears in her eyes, apologized for what had happened. And she said, I don't know what we were thinking. And I said, well, why did this happen? And she said it was because you weren't even on our radar. And I said, are we now? Yes. So we've made some room for ourselves there. And the other story that I want to share with you happened also in Barcelona in 2004 at the closing ceremony. 9,000 people came together after several days of being in each other's space, of attending each other's rituals, of asking questions. Actually, there are two stories that I want to tell you. Of being with each other and respecting one another as they observed how the other island lives. And at the end of that, they came together, and on the stage was the Youth Initiative, a group of 200 youth that had come together for the Parliament, made up of every religion. And these were individuals 24 years old and under. And the 200 of them came onto the stage and they did a performance, and they stood on the stage as a male white Christian approached the podium. And in front of 9,000 people, he said, "Let us pray." And on that stage, 199 of those youth clasped their hands, hunched their shoulders, and bowed their heads. And one young woman stood in front of a taiko drum and raised her arms to the goddess and invoked the divine in prayer. there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Because that picture alone hit home. Now they understood. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. That young woman was Michelle Mueller, who has subsequently gone on for a divinity degree and is actually in Boston this weekend and was hoping that she could be here, but it just didn't work out that way. So I leave you with that story.
In just a moment, Lady Stephanie is going to start her workshop. But first, I wanted to offer to Lady Angie this lavender stole, which conveys honorary high priesthood in our tradition, if you're willing to accept it.
Thank you.
And being an inveterate opportunist, I made sure they turned the cameras on first so we get a lovely picture of us. And this is meant to convey to you our thanks and our esteem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.